You want to know what's quietly making you rich while everyone else is running in circles? It's not the flashy stuff. It's not the new stock, the secret real estate deal, or the next crypto wave. It's the boring habits. The quiet ones that don't make headlines or look impressive on Instagram. The kind that no one claps for, yet they're compounding in silence while everyone else is chasing noise. And the first of them is this: you're more than happy living last year's lifestyle. That's right. You've learned to find satisfaction not in upgrading your life, but in mastering it. See, human beings are wired for novelty. We get bored easily. The same house that once felt like a dream becomes normal after 6 months. The same car you once prayed for becomes just transportation. The same phone that made you feel elite now just checks your emails. That's the trap. The endless treadmill of wanting more. You tell yourself you'll finally be satisfied when you get the next thing, the new model, the upgrade, the renovation, the raise, but every time you reach the finish line, it moves again. It's called lifestyle creep. And it's the reason millions of people look rich but are drowning in silent debt. I've watched it happen again and again. People make more money, and almost instantly, they start fantasizing about how to spend it. New apartment, new wardrobe, new vacations. They don't even wait until the raise hits the bank, they spend it in anticipation. I once had a friend who earned nearly $500,000 a year and still lived paycheck to paycheck. Why? Because he was spending next year's raise this year. And when the raise came, he simply found a new way to spend even more. He wasn't broke because of bad luck. He was broke because of bad habits. But you're different. You're the quiet one who figured out that wealth isn't built through constant expansion, it's built through contentment. You decided to stop chasing the next upgrade. You understood something most people never will. Enough is a decision, not a destination. You could afford more, sure, but you choose not to. You could move to a bigger house, but you stay. You could buy the new iPhone, but you wait. You could splurge on every whim, but you don't. You made peace with simplicity. And that, my friend, is the secret most people never discover. Because every time you refuse to inflate your lifestyle, you widen the gap between what you earn and what you spend, and that gap is where wealth is born. It's not in your paycheck, it's in the space between your income and your desires. Every dollar you don't spend chasing validation becomes a soldier in your army of compounding wealth. While everyone else is showing off what they have, your money is quietly working behind the scenes, growing, multiplying, expanding your freedom. Naval Ravikant said it best: happiness is wanting what you have, not having what you want. That line alone could rewrite an entire financial future. Because once you learn to want what you already have, money stops being your master. It becomes your tool. You stop needing more to feel good. You start using what you already have to build something lasting. Most people never reach that mindset. They're trapped in the illusion that satisfaction is somewhere just beyond the next purchase. You broke free from that illusion. That's why your wealth is quietly building while theirs quietly drains away. You know the funny thing? The truly wealthy, the old money families, the disciplined investors, the ones who've been compounding for decades, they live this way. They drive the same cars for years. They live below their means, even when their means stretch miles wide. They're not addicted to showing off. They're addicted to peace of mind. And peace of mind doesn't come from upgrading your lifestyle every 6 months. It comes from mastering your emotions every day. You've stepped off the hedonic treadmill, that endless loop where everyone's running but no one's moving forward. You saw it for what it is, a race that only leads to exhaustion. You've chosen another route, the route of contentment and control. You don't need to impress anyone. You're not waiting for a raise to feel valuable. You already feel wealthy because you're building wealth where it matters, in silence, in consistency, in gratitude. Every time your salary goes up, your expenses don't follow. That's why your wealth graph keeps rising while others flatten. You invest the difference instead of inflating your ego. You save not because you're stingy, but because you understand leverage, the power of letting time and discipline do what emotion and impulse can't. You've realized that the real reward of money isn't the ability to spend it, it's the ability not to. And while your colleagues chase dopamine through upgrades, you're compounding peace through patience. They brag about new toys. You smile knowing that every extra dollar is quietly buying you freedom. Freedom from stress, from debt, from the need to prove anything to anyone. You've mastered the first great habit of wealth, being happy with what you already have. And the magic of this habit, it compounds. The moment you stop chasing more, you start having enough. The moment you stop competing, you start compounding. Every bonus, every raise, every windfall becomes pure gain because you're not already spending it in your head. You've escaped the cycle that traps almost everyone else, the endless chase for more money to fund a life that never feels like enough. So yes, your life might look boring to outsiders. You might still be driving last year's car, wearing last year's shoes, using last year's phone. But underneath that simplicity lies a truth that most people will never experience: the power of stability, the joy of gratitude, and the unstoppable compounding of discipline. You've learned that wealth isn't about movement, it's about stillness. Not about showing off, it's about showing up for your future, for your goals, for your peace. So keep living last year's lifestyle. Keep ignoring the noise. Keep being content in a world addicted to more. Because while everyone else is chasing trends, you're building a foundation. While they're flashing, you're compounding. And one day, when they ask how you did it, you'll smile and tell them the truth that the richest thing you ever bought was contentment. Let me tell you something most people never realize until it's too late. It's not about how much you spend, it's about where you spend. Most people waste their lives trying to look rich, while the truly wealthy are too busy allocating wisely. The secret isn't in cutting every expense, it's in knowing exactly which ones to cut and which ones to feed. That's the art of being selectively cheap, the quiet second habit that's making you rich behind the scenes. Look around you. People love to say, "You only live once," right before they swipe their credit cards for something they don't need. They buy the expensive coffee, the premium subscriptions, the shiny toys, not because they add value, but because they add validation. They confuse consumption with confidence. They think spending more proves they're successful, but what it really proves is that they can't tell the difference between cost and worth. You've mastered that difference. You've learned to treat money like a soldier, send it only to battles that matter. Think of LeBron James, a billionaire, four-time MVP, global icon, yet he refuses to pay for Spotify Premium. He avoids paying for data roaming while traveling. His teammates joke about him being cheap, but what they don't understand is that he's not stingy, he's strategic. Because while he won't pay $10 for ad-free music, he invests $1.5 million a year on maintaining his body, chefs, trainers, recovery tech, personal wellness. He knows where the real value lies. He's not afraid to spend big, but only when the return justifies it. He treats his body like a billion-dollar business, because that's exactly what it is. Now, maybe you're not a global athlete, but you share the same mindset. You've learned that being selectively cheap doesn't mean being tight-fisted. It means being intelligent. You're fine cutting back on things that don't move the needle, like random subscriptions or overpriced dinners. But when it comes to growth, learning, health, or your future, you don't hesitate. You don't flinch when investing in yourself, your tools, or your assets. Because deep down, you know that every dollar you put in the right place multiplies itself over time. Research from The Millionaire Next Door proves this. The average millionaire drives a modest car worth about $20,000. They don't wear luxury suits or custom watches, but they invest aggressively in their businesses, their health, and their education. They understand that a depreciating asset can't compound, but a growing mind and well-managed body can. They spend where returns are exponential, not emotional, and that's exactly what separates you from the crowd. You know how to distinguish between comfort and compounding. I've seen people earning six figures still live like beggars inside their minds because they keep chasing appearances. They buy to impress, not to progress. They pour their raises into gadgets, clothes, and vacations they can't afford to sustain. Then they wonder why their bank balance never grows. Meanwhile, you're over there canceling unnecessary subscriptions, negotiating better deals, skipping meaningless luxury, and quietly stacking assets. They see you say no to small pleasures and assume you're depriving yourself. But what they don't see is that you're freeing yourself. Every time you refuse to pay for something that adds no real value, you're buying something far more important: your freedom. That's what most people don't understand about frugality. It's not about living with less. It's about living with purpose. When you stop spending mindlessly, you start spending meaningfully. You rewire your mind to see money as a resource, not a reward. You stop asking, "Can I afford this?" and start asking, "Does this serve me?" That one shift alone can change your entire financial destiny. You've learned to be cheap in the small, stupid places so you can be rich in the right ones. You'll skip the overpriced meal but pay full price for a course that upgrades your skills. You'll fly economy if it means funding another investment. You'll drive a decent used car but spend thousands to maintain your health and productivity. Because you know that wealth isn't built by looking rich, it's built by prioritizing wisely. Every dollar not wasted becomes a worker, a silent employee compounding for you around the clock. The beauty of this mindset is that it scales. Whether you make $1,000 a month or $100,000, the principle remains the same. Be cheap where it doesn't matter and fearless where it does. LeBron applies it at a billionaire level. You apply it in everyday life. You choose where to splurge with precision. You might not buy designer shoes, but you'll buy time by outsourcing, automating, or learning something that saves you hours every week. You might not own a private jet, but you own peace of mind, and that's something money can't always buy once it's gone. You're not emotionally attached to spending. That's your real superpower. While others chase feelings, you chase returns. You've rewired your habits to make spending intentional. Every dollar has a purpose, every purchase has a reason, and every decision passes through the filter of, does this make me better or just make me feel better? You've turned restraint into leverage. You've made discipline your edge. And the funny part? People will laugh, they'll call you cheap, they'll think you're missing out. But give it time, the same people who mocked your discipline will one day ask for your advice. Because while they were flexing, you were compounding. While they were trying to look rich, you were quietly becoming rich. The results always reveal themselves over time. Being selectively cheap is not about saying no to everything. It's about saying no to almost everything, so you can say yes to the right things. It's about building a life where your priorities aren't controlled by impulse or social pressure. You've learned that your money doesn't have to dance for attention. It has to work for your mission. That's the quiet confidence of wealth, knowing that you don't owe anyone an explanation for how you spend. So yes, you might still use the free version of Spotify. You might use your phone hotspot instead of buying a travel Wi-Fi plan. You might skip luxury labels or high-end dining. But when it comes to your craft, your investments, your health, and your legacy, you go all in. That's the difference between the rich and the reckless. The reckless spend to escape boredom. The rich spend to expand potential. You've mastered that balance. You've learned to play offense with purpose and defense with pride. And that's why your wealth keeps growing, quietly, steadily, invisibly. Every decision you make, what you spend on, what you skip, what you automate becomes a reflection of a larger truth. You're no longer chasing money. You're directing it. You're not working for your money. Your money is now working for you. So, stay selectively cheap. Keep being the person who knows exactly when to spend and when to hold back. Let others mistake your discipline for deprivation. Because one day, when they ask how you built your wealth, you'll tell them it wasn't luck, and it wasn't magic. It was 1,000 small, boring, deliberate choices that no one applauded, but everyone envied in the end. You know what separates people who think they're in control of their money from those who actually are? Tracking. That's it. One simple, boring, unglamorous discipline: writing things down, counting, measuring, checking. The average person says, I know where my money goes. But when you ask them how much they spent last month eating out, they'll give you a number that's off by half. They guess, they assume, they estimate, but wealth doesn't grow on assumptions. It grows on accuracy. Most people are living in financial fantasy land. They believe they're spending less than they do, saving more than they are, and progressing faster than they actually are. But when you don't track, you don't know. You're flying blind. The only difference between those who drift and those who build is that the builders measure. What gets measured gets managed. That's Peter Drucker's old truth. And you've taken it to heart. You've stopped guessing. You've stopped hoping the math works out. You made the decision to know. You might not think it matters, but it does. Studies show that Americans underestimate their monthly spending by 20 to 30%. That means if they think they're spending $3,000, it's closer to $4,000. And that missing $1,000 is the difference between wealth and worry. It's the invisible leak that drowns entire bank accounts. People wonder why they can't get ahead. It's because they never stop to check where their money's actually going. When you started tracking, everything changed. Suddenly, money stopped being abstract. You could see it, touch it, understand it. You saw the patterns, the small leaks, the pointless charges, the habits hiding behind convenience. You noticed the subscription you forgot about. You caught the dinner bills that were silently compounding into debt. And most importantly, you saw your power come back. Because once you see where every dollar goes, you start telling those dollars where to go next. You could be using an app, a spreadsheet, a notebook, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you're not guessing, you're managing. And that puts you in a rare group of people who actually know their numbers. It's funny how everyone wants to grow their income, yet very few can even list their expenses. They think making more money will solve everything. But if you can't manage what you already have, more only multiplies your mistakes. You've learned that lesson early, and that's why you're winning. Think about the greatest wealth builders in history. John D. Rockefeller, one of the richest men ever to live, kept a personal ledger from the time he was 16. Every penny earned, Every penny spent recorded. Even when he was a billionaire, he reviewed expenses. He didn't need to, but he still did. Sam Walton, the founder of Walmart, carried pocket notebooks everywhere. He tracked store costs down to paper clips. Arnold Schwarzenegger, during his bodybuilding years, tracked every workout, every meal, every dollar. He said he treated his reps and his money the same count, every single one. That's what people don't understand. Tracking isn't just about money, it's about discipline. It's about control. When you track, you train your mind to be intentional. You stop living reactively. You start noticing the small choices that separate growth from stagnation. It's not glamorous work. No one celebrates you for opening your spreadsheet at night, but that's the work that changes everything. Because every minute you spend understanding your numbers is a minute you spend mastering your future. The average person can't tell you where their money went at the end of the month. You can. You know what came in, what went out, and what's left over. You know where you're strong and where you're weak. You know what habits are helping you and which ones are hurting you. You've stopped treating money like a mystery. You treat it like data. And that, right there, is how you turn chaos into clarity. When you track, you create accountability. Numbers don't lie. They don't care about your excuses, your emotions, or your intentions. They just show the truth. And the truth, once you face it, becomes your advantage. You start spotting patterns. You start seeing progress. You start building momentum. Suddenly, your savings goals stop being vague wishes and start being measurable milestones. You're no longer saying, I'll try to save more. You're saying, I saved 22% of my income this month. That's real power. I know, it's not exciting. It's not the kind of thing that gets a million views on social media. Nobody posts a screenshot of their expense tracker with a motivational quote, but that's the point. The things that make you rich are the things that don't need to be seen. Tracking is quiet, but it's ruthless. It's boring, but it's powerful. It forces you to see reality. And wealth only grows in reality. Even billionaires who no longer need to track their spending still do it out of habit, because they know what it took to get there. Tracking teaches humility. It reminds you that discipline, not income, builds freedom. It's the act of counting that keeps you grounded. It's the same reason athletes review their stats, writers count their words, and CEOs read their numbers every week. Data isn't boring. Data is direction. When you track, you remove uncertainty. You stop saying, I think, and start saying, I know. And the moment you know, you start making sharper decisions. You cut what's wasteful. You double down on what works. You begin to build not by chance, but by calculation. You turn every dollar into an employee. You give each one a job and check their performance. That's how you build an empire, one paycheck at a time. Most people let their money control them because they're too lazy to look at it. You're doing the opposite. You're controlling it because you confront it. You're not afraid of the numbers. You study them. You analyze them. You learn from them. And that's why you never wake up shocked by your bank balance. You already know what's there because you designed it that way. And the best part? The habit compounds. The longer you track, the sharper your awareness becomes. You start anticipating instead of reacting. You plan for expenses before they arrive. You allocate for goals before they appear. You build margin into your life, not just financially, but mentally. You sleep better because nothing about your money is uncertain. So yes, it's boring. Yes, it's repetitive, but it's also liberating. It's the quiet backbone of financial independence. Because when you know where every penny goes, you realize how much power you already have. And once you taste that control, you'll never go back to guessing again. So keep doing it. Keep tracking every expense, every subscription, every line item. Keep reviewing your numbers even when they look fine, because that's how you stay fine. That's how you stay wealthy. While everyone else is wondering where their money went, you already know where yours is going. And that difference, that single habit, is why your wealth keeps growing, silently and relentlessly, while theirs keeps disappearing in the fog of unawareness. There's a point in every wealth journey where discipline alone stops being enough. You can be smart, you can be intentional, you can even be tracking every cent. But if your systems depend entirely on willpower, you'll eventually slip. Not because you're weak, but because you're human. You make 35,000 decisions a day. You juggle work, bills, family, deadlines, distractions, emotions. And somewhere in that chaos, your best intentions fade. That's why the smartest wealth builders don't depend on self-control. They depend on systems. They automate their discipline so their success doesn't need reminding. Automation is the habit that turns consistency into inevitability. It's how you protect yourself from your worst self. Think about it. How many times have you told yourself, I'll save what's left at the end of the month? But the end of the month comes and there's nothing left. Life happens. The car needs repairs. Your kid's school sends a surprise notice. A friend calls for a weekend getaway. Suddenly, that money you plan to invest is gone. You tell yourself you'll do it next month, but next month becomes next year. You didn't fail to save because you were careless. You failed because you left the outcome to chance. You understood this early, which is why you removed chance from your finances. You stopped relying on memory and motivation. You built guardrails. You automated every crucial part of your money flow. Your bills pay themselves, your investments fund themselves, and your savings grow on autopilot. The moment your paycheck lands, your money splits itself into different missions, a portion to savings, a portion to investments, a portion to obligations. You don't even see it. You just live by design. That's the beauty of automation. It saves you from yourself. You no longer have to make the right decision every time because you made it once, and your system repeats it forever. David Bach, the author of The Automatic Millionaire, found that people who automate their savings and investments accumulate significantly more wealth than those who don't. And it's obvious why. Automation eliminates human error, forgetfulness, and emotional interference. It ensures your wealth grows even on your worst days. You've learned to treat your finances like a machine. A well-tuned engine doesn't depend on mood or motivation, it just runs. You've built your system to run whether you're tired, distracted, or busy. That's what separates professionals from amateurs. Amateurs depend on effort. Professionals depend on structure. And your financial structure is airtight. You've automated your 401 contributions, your savings transfers, your bill payments, and even your annual increases. Every January, your investment percentage ticks up by 1. You barely notice it, but the compounding effect over years is enormous. You don't have to remember, you don't have to plan, you don't even have to decide, the system decides for you. That's how wealth grows quietly while others wait for motivation. Because here's the truth, motivation is fragile. It fades the moment life gets inconvenient. Systems are stronger. Systems are emotion-proof. You don't wake up every day deciding whether to brush your teeth. It's automatic. The same logic applies to wealth. The more decisions you automate, the fewer opportunities you give yourself to mess it up. Automation is discipline without fatigue. It's consistency without pressure. It's the silent engine of financial freedom. People who don't automate think they're being careful. They say things like, "I like to do it manually, so I stay in control." But that's not control, that's friction. Real control is when you build a system that doesn't need your attention. Because the more manual steps you keep, the more chances you create for mistakes. Missed payments, forgotten transfers, emotional spending, they all vanish the moment you automate. You've mastered that. You've made automation your ally. Your future is already being funded in the background while you're living your present. Every time your paycheck hits, a piece of it is quietly buying your freedom. You're no longer saving what's left. You're spending what's left after saving. And that single shift changes everything. Think about it this way. People who automate their finances turn their good habits into default habits. They make success the path of least resistance. Everyone else has to wrestle with temptation every month. Should I invest this or should I reward myself? You don't even get the chance to debate. The decision has already been made. You can't spend what you don't see, and you can't sabotage what's already invested. You've designed your system to remove you from the equation. That's genius. The best investors, the ones who build generational wealth, all do the same thing. They set their systems once and then step aside. Their money multiplies in silence. They don't touch it. They don't time the market. They automate. They trust. They let compounding do its job. Because compounding only works when you don't interrupt it, and automation ensures you never do. You're not depending on luck anymore. You're depending on math. You've turned your financial plan into something that runs while you sleep. And the irony is that most people call this boring. They think automation is dull, robotic, unexciting. But that's the point. The more boring your system, the more exciting your results. Wealth should be predictable, not dramatic. It should compound in silence, not crash in excitement. Automation is the invisible hand steering your financial ship even when you're not at the wheel. It protects you from bad timing, bad moods, and bad days. It ensures you don't rely on discipline when your willpower runs low. It removes emotion and replaces it with precision. It's what turns a maybe into a definitely. You've built your life around this idea that success should be inevitable, not optional. And because of that, you don't have to live in constant anxiety about whether you're doing enough. You know you are. You know that while others procrastinate, you compound. While they plan to invest, you already have. While they wait for the right time, your system quietly keeps creating wealth behind the scenes. So yes, automation might not look glamorous. Nobody posts their auto transfer confirmation on social media, but that single decision to make your finances automatic is what separates wealth builders from wishful thinkers. You've taken your goals out of the hands of motivation and put them into the hands of mathematics. And that, my friend, is how you make progress inevitable. Because the truth is, automation isn't just a tool, it's a philosophy. It's the belief that consistency beats intensity. It's the understanding that small, steady actions outperform big, emotional ones. It's the decision to trust systems over feelings. And once you master that, wealth becomes a byproduct of design, not desire. So keep automating. Keep building systems that protect you from yourself. Keep letting your money move quietly while the world chases noise. Because every transfer, every deduction, every automated contribution is one less decision you have to make and one step closer to the freedom you've been building all along. There comes a stage in your journey where everything looks still from the outside. The flashy moves stop. The urgent decisions disappear. You're no longer chasing the next big thing because you already know what works, and that's where true wealth begins. You've automated, you've tracked, you've mastered restraint. Now, the next habit isn't about action. It's about inaction. It's about embracing the boring basics of investing and having the strength to do absolutely nothing when everyone else panics. Most people lose money not because they lack opportunity, but because they can't sit still. They buy high when they feel good, sell low when they feel scared, and then repeat the cycle until they run out of both money and patience. But you've learned the hardest discipline in investing: calmness. You've understood that the market rewards patience, not excitement. You don't chase headlines, you don't gamble on trends, and you don't mistake motion for progress. You just keep buying, holding, and compounding quietly, methodically, unshaken. Your strategy isn't glamorous. It's not something that earns applause at dinner parties. It's simple, even dull. You buy broad market index funds, you contribute regularly, you hold through the storms. That's it. No complicated charts, no fancy terms, no secret shortcuts. You invest like a monk, steady, detached, consistent, because you know that the point of investing isn't entertainment. It's endurance. The wealthiest investors are not the loudest. They're the ones who do the least and wait the longest. There's a quote from Jack Bogle, the founder of Vanguard, that you live by. Don't do something, just stand there. It's the exact opposite of what most people do. The moment markets shake, they panic. They see red charts on CNBC and feel the urge to act, to fix, to move. But you understand that wealth doesn't come from reacting. It comes from holding. You've trained yourself to sit through discomfort. You've realized that downturns are not disasters. They're discounts. While others sell, you accumulate. While they panic, you stay calm. Because the longer your time horizon, the smaller every storm becomes. That's the real secret time. You're not playing for days. You're playing for decades. You've stopped asking how to get rich fast. You're asking how to stay rich forever. The difference between those two questions is everything. The impatient play to impress, the patient play to endure. Jeff Bezos once said, "If everything you do needs to work in 3 years, you're competing against a lot of people. But if you can think in 7 or 10 years, you're competing with almost no one." You've applied that wisdom to your money. You're not rushing to double your net worth this year. You're positioning it to multiply quietly for the next 30. You've discovered that compounding doesn't just work financially, it works psychologically. The longer you stay patient, the easier patience becomes. The longer you stay invested, the more time becomes your ally instead of your enemy. You've learned to value boredom because you now understand that boredom is where the magic hides. Every millionaire portfolio you admire today was once a boring, repetitive routine, regular contributions, simple investments, minimal interference. People chase complexity because it feels intelligent. They think success must be complicated. But the real secret is simplicity, executed consistently. That's your edge. You don't need to predict the market because you've learned to outlast it. You don't need to beat other investors because you've learned to avoid beating yourself. The true game of wealth isn't about picking winners, it's about staying in the game long enough for compounding to do its job. So when others run toward the latest investment craze, you stay rooted. When they chase meme stocks and miracle coins, you stay focused. You've seen this story before: the rise, the hype, the collapse. You've watched fortunes built on luck crumble overnight while steady portfolios doubled quietly in the background. You know how this ends every time? The patient win. Always. You've stopped letting the market's noise dictate your emotions. The headlines don't control you anymore because you know the truth. Financial media doesn't sell information. It sells fear. Urgent updates, market meltdowns, breaking news, all designed to make you act impulsively. But not you. You've built emotional distance between your wealth and the world's noise. You don't chase adrenaline, you chase outcomes. And your outcome is inevitable because your process is unbreakable. That's the beauty of your approach. It's boring, painfully boring, but it works. You don't look busy, but your money is working harder than ever. Every paycheck contributes, every dollar compounds, every year multiplies. And because you don't interrupt the process, it grows exponentially while others restart their journey every time they panic. And here's the part few understand: doing nothing is not laziness, it's wisdom. It takes strength to stay calm when others panic. It takes courage to sit through chaos. It takes maturity to realize that wealth isn't built through constant adjustment, but through consistent direction. You've mastered that mindset. You don't try to outsmart the market, you outweight it. You don't jump in and out, you just stay in. You don't seek thrill, you seek peace. That's how wealth is created, not loudly, but quietly, not in bursts, but over time. Now, let's talk about time itself, because in the end, that's the final ingredient of this entire philosophy. Patience isn't just a virtue, it's leverage. You're not trying to win next week, you're trying to win forever. You've realized that every year you stay invested, your risk of loss decreases and your probability of success skyrockets. Between 2000 and 2020, through two major crashes, long-term investors still earned 7–8% annual returns. The impatient ones, the market timers, barely made half that. You know why? Because fear made them move. You stayed still. And that's the irony of the game. The less you do, the more you earn. The less you chase, the more you build. The less you react, the more you gain. That's the paradox of wealth inactivity, is profitability. So, when the next crisis hits, when headlines scream panic, when people rush to protect their portfolios, you'll smile, check your allocation, and go back to living your life. Because you know something they don't, that your wealth doesn't need your anxiety to grow. It just needs your patience. You're not competing with anyone anymore. You're not trying to time your wins. You're playing the long, quiet game, decades, not days. Because you've realized that in a world obsessed with speed, longevity is the ultimate advantage. Everyone's sprinting, you're compounding. Everyone's chasing, you're holding. And while they keep restarting, you keep growing. That's how real wealth is built, not by intensity, but by endurance. So keep doing the boring things. Keep buying the same index fund. Keep contributing automatically. Keep holding while others fold. Keep tracking when others ignore. Keep saying no to upgrades that don't matter. Keep living last year's lifestyle, even when you can afford 10 times more. Because one day, when people ask how you became so wealthy, you'll tell them the truth, that the habits that made you rich were the ones too boring for anyone else to follow. You didn't win because you were the smartest. You won because you were the most patient. You didn't chase the next big thing. You built something steady. You didn't gamble on timing. You trusted time itself. And that's the quiet secret of every true wealth builder, the courage to stay boring while the world keeps chasing excitement.